All right. Well, welcome everybody. I am super pumped to be here. I've got a incredible friend of mine, somebody I've known for quite a while, and for me, it's an incredible privilege to have him here. And him and I have, obviously we've gotten to know each other over the years. It's been several years now. I mean, gosh, I think we've known each other now for around 8 years or so, 8 or 9 years.
At least.
Uh, I have just watched this guy go from somebody who was just getting started, kind of struggling, wasn't real sure what to do, to just someone who's now having an insane amount of success. I was just talking to him before we hopped on here. Told me he's going to have his best year ever.
Yeah.
In 2020. The year
Yeah.
everybody's saying, "Oh, can we delete this year? Can we?" It's. But anyway, my friend Marquel Russell, what's up, man?
Thank you, man, bro. You have no idea. I always tell you, man, but I want to say it publicly as well. You have no idea how grateful for I am for you and the work that you've done. You've always been the same guy. I mean, you've always been crushing ever since I knew you, but you crushing at an even higher level. But you've always been the same guy the whole time, just leading with tons of value. And yeah, you've been massive for me on my journey, bro. So I'm grateful for you, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and it's like I said, feelings mutual. It's been just fun to be a part of it and watch your journey, man. It's been pretty amazing. With that, I mean, I've been able to, see you, really go on and have amazing success. But for those watching, I mean, let's talk a little bit about your story. Like how did you get started in this whole thing?
Yeah, so it's interesting, man. So I'm from Atlanta. I grew up in a drug infested environment. I actually dropped out of high school in 10th grade, so I got a ninth grade education. Started selling drugs at a young age because that was like our only way out at that point. I mean, I wanted to go to the NBA and the NFL like any other kid, but at that time I was like, we need to make money now. So started selling drugs. Dropped out of high school in 10th grade. I had my first son. I was 19. I was in jail when I turned 19, and my son was born when I was 19. And I said, I'm going to do the right thing. So I said, you know what? I'm going to get out. I'm going to do this job thing. Got out, tried to do the job thing. It didn't work out. It was short-lived. Went back into the streets, and I started an entertainment company. So I was doing like artist management, club promotions, and stuff like that. And while I was in the club one night, I was introduced to this thing called network marketing. I didn't even know what network marketing was. The guy just asked me, he was like, hey, man, what if every time you got paid, he was like, who all do you know with a cell phone? And I was like, well, everybody I know has a cell phone. And he was like, what if every time they paid their bill, you got paid? And I was like, that'll be cool. So they invited me out to this home party. I went to my first home party. They was like, hey, man, we got this new technology. They was like, imagine if you were in the room when Google started, or when Facebook started, or when Microsoft started. I was like, that'd been cool. And it was like, well, that's the opportunity you have right now. And it was like, all you gotta do is get two, and they'll get two, and they'll get two, and they'll get two, and they'll get two.
Like that, man.
Yeah, right? Yeah. So I'm in there like I'm taking this all in like I'm a little child. So I'm like, oh my God. So I'm like, I'm in. So I jumped in. Obviously, it didn't work that way, but I showed it to my mom, and she was like, if you market it, it could work. So I was sharing to some other people. Everybody I knew told me it was a pyramid scheme. It wasn't going to work. And these are people I knew because I knew a lot of people. So I was like, man, getting two going to be easy. But everybody was telling me it was a pyramid scheme. It wasn't going to work. All this and the third. So I went to the guys who recruited me invited me to the national conference that was happening in Atlanta. So I went, and I was like, this is crazy. There was thousands of people there. And I'm like, okay, maybe they could have tricked me, but there's no way they could have tricked all these people. So I don't know what happened at this conference, but I came out of it. I got 2 or 3 rank advancements. Here I am on stage with these guys with suits and everything. I got my polo shorts on and my cargo shorts and my Cartier frames, and probably smelling like weed at the time because I used to smoke a lot of weed back then. So I came out, but it plateaued. I ran out of people to talk to. I didn't really know what to do. So somebody on my team sent me a text one day, and it said, they was like, well, hey, you can build this network marketing business without doing parties, without talking to strangers and all that. And I was like, okay, cool. So I clicked on the link, watched this 4-part video series. This is my first introduction to online marketing. And it was like, hey, here's how to magnetically sponsor. Of course, we've all read Magnetic Sponsoring, right, by Mike Dillard.
Love that book, man.
Right. So I watched the 4 videos, and then I read the sales letter. Obviously, I didn't know it was a sales letter at that time. I read this sales letter about 50 times, and I finally bought it. It was a $40 ebook at the time. So I bought that, and I started buying. I kind of went down the rabbit holes, and I was just blown away. This was my first introduction to direct response marketing. So at this time, I'm buying all types of courses. I'm buying courses like crazy, buying courses like crazy, buying courses like crazy. One of those courses I bought happened to be Tube Traffic Mojo that you and Frank did. I think I own all your stuff. But I think Tube Traffic Mojo was the first one. And Adam Chandler is one of his, I forgot which program it was, but you two guys, I actually had you used to always say, just pick one thing, but I had a call with Adam because it came with his course. And he was like, look, man, all you gotta do is just pick one thing. Stop trying to do everything. So at that time, it was just creating content. And at that point, I was doing blog posts, and I was doing like video marketing because you had taught. I was doing blog posts at first. I didn't know how to rank video. I didn't know how to rank anything. I didn't know that was a thing. Then I bought Tube Traffic Mojo and started doing videos. And you and Frank was teaching how to rank these videos to get tons of leads. So yeah, I was like, do one video a day. I was doing like 3 videos a day because I wanted to accelerate this whole thing. Long story short, I started getting tons of leads. People started kind of seeing who I was. People was reaching out, asking me what I was doing. And then people wanted to pay me to coach them. And I didn't know coaching was a thing. But I was like, wow, this is crazy. So people will pay you to coach them. So I started coaching, and people started, and it started to grow. So I started this little coaching program, charging like $300 a month. That's how I got to my initial $10,000 a month thing, which is the holy grail online, right? $10,000 a month. And then I had chilled out on network marketing because I went through a few companies, but I came out of quote unquote retirement. The last company I was in was a company I was the number one recruiter out of 50,000 people. But I said, but the money didn't add up. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna just do my own thing. So I started my own membership site, teaching what I was doing from an online marketing standpoint. And then I just kind of carved out my niche, like helping people, because people want to know how was I attracting clients for our coaching business and growing it and so forth. So that's kind of how this Client Attraction University thing birthed. I just said, you know what? I'm just gonna go all in on this client attraction stuff, helping business owners never have to worry about where the next clients are going to come from, man. So that's the thing. That's the short version, man. Hopefully that wasn't too long.
No, it's amazing to hear the journey of, of how you've gone from, telling your story about how you were in jail, all that stuff. Your story is it's an amazing story of redemption, quite frankly.
Sure. For sure.
You're down here, and now you've totally changed your life. I think now you have 17 kids, something like that.
Yeah, man, definitely 17. It's getting out of hand, man. It's getting out of hand.
Seems like every time I turn around, got another one on the way. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, bro. It's crazy, man. That's what happens when you have a home business, man, and you're at home a lot.
But break time, it's really, hey, man.
Yeah, man.
But, and I think that's what's so inspiring is to watch, I see people, it's like, you're down in the dumps, like, hey, man, we've all been there at one point or another. But the news about it is that the only way to go when you're down is up. And, and I think you're just such a spitting image of that. And one of the things I know for me that I've always admired about you over the years is that you've really done a lot to help troubled youth. Not only that, because you came from that environment.
Yep.
And that, one of the, basic principles I think is when it comes to, any kind of success is that, when you get success, it's almost an obligation. Not only an obligation, but it's something that enriches your own life to reach back and say, you know what? I've changed my life. Let me see how I can help you change yours too. And you've done that and you've put on events for troubled youth. And that is one of the things that I've always supported you with that because I just absolutely love what you do in that. And it's something that I believe in as well. Because kids today, they need that direction, man. They need mentorship. They need people to look at them and say, hey, man, I love you. I'm going to take care of you. And it starts in our own home first. That's my opinion. But you've gone out and you've really done that in your own community. So just talk about that a little bit. I'd love for our viewers here to hear about it.
Yeah. So for me, a lot of people ask me like, Marquel, what was the biggest thing that changed for you to go from where you were doing to, what you're doing now? And I was like, the biggest thing was like exposure. You know what I'm saying? I was just exposed to a different way of thinking, a different way of operating, just different way of viewing myself, right? So like I started getting introduced to people like Jim Rohn, Les Brown, Miles Monroe, Tony Robbins. I'm like Eric Thomas. I'm like I never heard people talk like this. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, this is crazy. Like Jim Rohn was my first introduction,
Yeah.
and this was marketing. I was like, this is insane. Like I never heard people talk like this. You know what I'm saying? So it was that exposure, and then I started traveling a little bit. One of the biggest things I tell people all the time, network marketing saved my life. So it's like I don't have anything negative to say about network marketing. So it opened me to personal development. It helped me open me up to traveling. I had never flown an airplane or owned a suit or none of that by the time I was 25. So that just opened my eyes to a whole new world. So that's what I started doing was I started taking all the notes that I was writing from like listening to Liz Bress Brown and going to these events. And I said, what's the best way for me to get this out? Because if I would knew this when I was 10 or 11 or 12 or 13 or whatever, who knows, right? So I said, how can I get this out? So I took it all, I turned it into a book, and the book was called Breaking the Cycle, right? And I didn't know a lot about marketing, so it was Breaking the Cycle. The subtitle was like real deep and long, and it wasn't really clear because I didn't really understand marketing that much. But I put it all together. I paid a guy a couple few $100 to teach me how to do a book, and I just took all my notes and turned it into a book, right? And then I kind of, as I started learning more about marketing, I refined it. But I was at an event one time, and an authors and speakers event, and me and another lady actually, we were the only people that had books. So the guy who was hosting the event, and I was with one of my mentors at the time, and the guy told me, hey, stand up and tell everybody about your book. So I told him about the book and why I wrote it, and I sat down, and my mentor Brian, he was like, you should do events because he do a lot of events. He was like, you should do an event for that, and I was like, well, for like kids? He was like, yeah. I was like, well, you show me how to do it? He was like, yeah. So I was like, cool. So I bought right down the spot. I bought the domain, iambreakingthecycle.com, because breakingthecycle.com wasn't available. I bought iambreakingthecycle.com, start promoting the event. We did the event, and people got a lot out of it. So that we did a few of those, and then we turned it into a Young Wealthy Genius because our goal is to teach the kids. Of course you're young, but you're wealthy, and that doesn't have anything to do with money. That's part of it, and you're already a genius, right? Because you already have everything inside of you to create whatever you want. And it wasn't like a motivational event. I kind of took a different approach because I didn't want to come at them like, hey, I'm your dad, or I didn't want to come at that approach. I'm like, hey, kind of look at me as your big brother. I just want to expose you to the options. Right. And I used to bring people in. I used to leverage my network. So the last one, I had a guy who he was like one of the first black guys to ever drive NASCAR. So he was there on the panel. He brought his NASCAR gear. He was in his NASCAR gear in the whole nine. I had my guy Idris. Idris used to play for the Indianapolis Colts. He was there. I have a few guys who've made millions of dollars online. They were there speaking. I had one guy who does like meditation and stuff like that. So he walked the guys through a meditation. I had some guys who just came home from prison, right? And they were kind of sharing their story. I had one guy who came home from prison, made millions online. He was there. And then I had Eric Thomas actually come speak as well. We booked Eric Thomas. He came down. And then I also had another guy who was like, he's still in the streets. So like he literally came from, his thing, and like came to speak to the guys. So my whole approach is like, hey, I'm not telling y'all that you got to do this or do the right thing. If you want to sell drugs and you want to rob or you want to be in gangs and all that after this, fine, you got that option. I just want to show you like, here's the result of that decision. And here's the result of taking another decision. And if you decide to go this route, right, we're going to align you with all the resources or whatever to create whatever it is you want. So that's our whole approach with the event. It was going great. We're actually going to crank it back up because ideally I wanted to be in person because it's like I think it's something about being in person. So we're probably going to kick it back off in 2021. But yeah, man, it's more of a passion thing. Like, and it's not like 501(c), so we don't get grants from the government or nothing. Guys like you, Mark, and other individuals who've sold into it is the reason we get to continue to do it because we don't make money off of it or nothing like that. It's all just totally given.
Well, and I just love it, man, because that's really what it's all about, man. It's, when when we leave this earth, when our time comes for us to go, and ain't none of us getting out of here alive,
That's true.
We reach that point, it's kind of like, what do you want people to remember you by,
Sure.
And I know that, hey, if I can make a difference in one person's life and they go, you know what, he really made a difference in my life. And people, that's what people remember.
Yep.
Not about people. Honestly, I believe people aren't going to remember, oh, he was so successful in what he did. No, in
Sure.
fact, it's like nobody ever, when I think of Jim Rohn, like you brought up, I don't go, man, he was so successful and I'm like, no, that dude shared some information that changed people's lives. Mine,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and it's like, I admire that about you so much. And I just love that you've done that event and you've had a great impact on kids. And
Thank you.
I keep swearing one of these times when you do it, I'm going to come to your event. So,
Definitely. Definitely. I'm gonna let you know what we do
there
next time.
to
I'm gonna let you know. Definitely gotta get you to the next one for sure.
yeah, that'd be awesome. But anyway, so with all of that, I'm going to ask you kind of a general question. But you talked about being exposed to the information, the information, and that made a big difference. And but if you had to bring it right down to what do you attribute to your success now? Because like I said, you're on. This is your best year yet.
Yeah.
2020. What do you think if you really narrowed it down to in just a few couple little, points that you attribute to your overall success? What would it be?
I would say it's the ability to, and I think it's a God-given gift, right? I think one of the biggest things is like, number one, tapping into like wise counsel, right? Because people who've already figured stuff out. Then after you, because like we already know, like information isn't the thing that creates transformation. It's like the implementation.
Right.
So it's like my ability to get new information and then implement that information fast. I think that's the thing that gives me the edge over everybody. I don't really overthink it. I don't really overprocess it. Okay, I get the information. I'm like, all right, let me implement that, and then let me just see what happens.
Yeah.
As a result. So I think that ability to kind of push past the fear and the resistance and all that. Like, okay, I got this information. Let me launch it. Let me test it. We're going to see what happens. I think that's the biggest thing. If you can implement faster than everyone else, that'll always kind of give you the advantage because most people won't implement. They'll just consume and consume and consume and never implement.
Yeah, and that's a huge thing. And a guy that I used to listen to a lot and wrote my favorite book ever, The Slight Edge, which you probably read.
Yeah.
By Jeff.
100%.
And one of the things he talks about in that book is learn knowledge and activity knowledge.
Yep.
Talks about how the learn knowledge, you crack open a book, you're reading a book. The activity is, I equate it to knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge,
Yep.
reading the book, kind of looking at it, you kind of take it in subjectively, you look at it. But then there's a wisdom that comes along with the application of it.
Yep.
And it's like if I was an employer and I'm hiring somebody and they come in like, okay, I got a 4-year degree in marketing, I know a guy that runs a multi-million-dollar marketing agency, and he has people come in off the streets. So like, I got a 4-year bachelor's in whatever, in marketing, and he's like, great. How much have you done? What have you done? Tell me what you've done.
Exactly.
They're completely clueless because there's a difference between, talking about, This is a funny example, but there's a difference between saying, hey, I'm street, and then there's a difference between, hey, I've lived on the streets. I know. You know what I mean? I'm saying there's a difference between that street knowledge versus head knowledge.
100%.
So I think that's a huge thing, and if people can actually make that move to learning it and actually doing it, and one of the things that you said speaks volumes. You don't overthink it.
Mm-hmm.
That is a huge hindrance for people. Is they feel like they got to know every little thing and they just don't.
True.
You don't have to know everything. I'm kind of I used to be like that because I'm a very technical guy, but one of the things I learned over the years, I kind of changed my philosophy was jump out of the plane and figure out how the parachute works on the way down.
Very true.
That's
Very
really how it goes,
Very true.
So last question here, and I think this is a huge one, is why do you think that it is important for people to continually invest in themselves and how important it is to their future? I know for me, it all started with that little ebook you talked about for me. Sponsoring. That was kind of the beginning for me.
Yep.
But I remember specifically seeing a video that Mike Dillard did years ago. And he said, somebody asked me one time if they had $500 left in their bank account and how should they spend that money? Should they go out and buy leads with it? Or what should they do? And he said, if I had $500 left, I would invest in my skills. Because that is something that never goes away when you build the skill. And so anyway, just talk about that for a moment. About continually investing in yourself.
No, for sure. So I believe that. So like whatever you invest in grows, right?
Yeah.
So it's like if you plant a seed outside, the only way for it to grow is for you to invest in it, like for you to water it, for you to make sure you got adequate sun, to do the necessary stuff for it to grow into what you're looking to grow. And then oftentimes it doesn't grow as fast as you want. But I think like anything we want to accomplish, somebody else has already accomplished.
Yeah.
So why not go pay them to figure out what they've already done? Because most people say, well, I just learned it on YouTube or I can do this. Yeah, that's one way to do it, right? However, if you value time over money, money can buy you time. So you go pay somebody else. So I tell my kids, it's like, I tell them books are the cheat code to life.
Yeah.
Because you can go buy a book and you can get 30 years of wisdom in 200 or 300 pages for $20, $15. Why wouldn't you make that exchange and take the time? Not just buy the book, but actually read it as well. You know what I'm saying? You can go buy a course, somebody who's built them. That's why when I came online, I was like, these guys are making what? And they're going to teach it all in a course for how much? That was a no-brainer for me.
Absolutely.
Like, you telling me you're going to teach how you built a $25 million business, and all I got to do is pay $40 for the ebook?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm in. Or you're going to teach me how to do this? You're going to teach me how to generate all these leads and all this for your course, and it's $297 or $497? Of course. So now my thing is like, my level of thinking now is not like, how can I figure this out? But it's like, who can I pay to help me figure this out? Because they've already figured it out. So it's just easy for me to just pay them. So now I was like, okay, all right, what coach do we hire now? Or who do we hire now for this level? And once I shift to that, like, things accelerated.
Yeah, and that is, and you probably do this too, but being in business for so long now, every time I decide whether I'm going to do something or pay somebody to do it, I do time money calculation in my head. Does it make sense for me to learn this or just to pay somebody? You know what I mean? Because you start to realize that when you start to have success, your time is very valuable. And it comes back to investing in yourself. You nailed it, because why would I want to spend, a couple of years potentially learning something that somebody else has already done through years potentially of experience, and they're selling it, access to it for $500?
Exactly.
And $500, invest that $500, go through it and garner all that knowledge. And, it's such a no-brainer when it comes to that. And, but, I specifically, think about, all the skills myself that I've learned over the years from courses that I've purchased. I'm really good. I'll tell you this, and this is just an example. Like, I feel I'm really good at selling, on webinars, and that's one of my strong points. I'm really good at communicating. But do you know what I invest in a lot? How to sell. I'm good at it, and I can do it. I don't know, maybe a year or two ago, I was really, I was always been good at webinars. So I went and purchased this webinar course for $1,000. So if you're already good on webinars, why would you buy a webinar course? Because I want to be better. Yep. I go through this whole course, and pretty much all these things they're talking about, I had already kind of implemented, and I already have it going. There were 2 things in that course that I got that I had never implemented before. And those 2 things, I have probably 500 times made more money than the $1,000 I spent investing in that. Exactly. And I think when you experience it like you have and like I have, it's a no-brainer. And people just, I think the biggest thing is that people need to understand how important that is, because it just is, man. It's so crucial to success.
True, man. And it's just to add to that, it's like and I spoke at this event last week, 2 weeks ago, and I talked about this, and my marketing director asked me a few months ago, he was like, man, what's the one thing that you learned that helped you go from where you were now to where you are now? And I was like, it's interesting that, and a lot of people want to know, like, what's the one thing? The reality is, like, it wasn't a one thing, right? It was why I broke it down is like, it was just like these little breadcrumbs along the way, right? And it was like these little 2 millimeter shifts. So You hear Jim Rohn say something. Okay, that's a 2 millimeter shift. You get this, it's a 2 millimeter shift. You go through Tube Traffic Mojo, that's a 2 millimeter shift. I buy Magnetic Sponsoring, it's a 2 millimeter shift. I go through this 2 mil. So it's just these little. It's like you're not gonna buy this one course or this one book, or go to this one event, and that thing is the thing, right? And people are like, that's not the last course you're gonna buy. It's not. Some people say, well, this is the last book you're ever gonna have to buy on this topic, or this is the last course you got to buy. That's total BS, right? It's like, yeah, it's total crap. So it's like, all right, you get that, you get this 2 millimeter shift, which leads you to the next thing, which leads you to the next thing, which leads you to the next thing, and you, like you said, you just take one or two things from each thing, and that's just like another stepping stone.
I love you use that example because you and I think alike so much. It's kind of funny how, when you start to have success and you get around other people that have had it too, it's like, hey man, that all worked for me,
Exactly.
And so there's this commonality there, different backgrounds, different backgrounds, but what has helped us both is the same thing, exposing ourselves to that. And I've used that analogy before as like, imagine you're building a house, every little audio you listen to on your way to work, a 20-minute drive to work. Of course, if you're in Atlanta, it might be 45 minutes, but
45 minutes. Definitely 45 minutes.
But that little drive to work, and you listen to an audio from Jim Rohn. That's that's one brick in the house.
Yep.
And then on your way home, you get to listen to another 20 minutes. It's another brick.
And you don't even realize it. You don't even realize this is happening because it's kind of like that the plant. You don't realize what's happening, what's taking root. You're just doing it consistently. You don't even realize what's happening.
Yeah, and it's amazing. And next thing you know, here you are consistently doing that over 2-3 years, and next thing you realize, your whole philosophy changed because you've listened to people that, number one, you trust and that are going to give you good information.
Yep.
And next thing you know, your whole life is completely, changed.
Exactly.
And kind of funny, at the beginning of this, you talked about the holy grail of online marketing, 10,000. There was a day in my life that I actually thought that was a lot of money.
Me too. I went to my first network when I used to have one of my mentors in network marketing. She used to always say, well, if I make 20,000 a month, that's a bad month for me. And I used to be like, wow, that is crazy. That seemed like so much money. I was like, 20,000 a month, that is crazy. So 100%, man. And again, that goes to that exposure.
It is. It's your mind expanding, and like you start to look and go, wow, that's a really low month.
Mm-hmm.
What the hell happened?
What happened? Right. Right. And now I look at our ad budget, what we spent on ads, and I'm like, sheesh.
Well, you mentioned that, and I remember Mike Dillard saying something like that one time in a training call, and he said, imagine, yourself having a $10,000 a month ad budget. And I remember at the time thinking, what?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? I'm like, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's like I $500 to $1,000 a day in ads. I mean, if you got something that's converting, I'll go all day with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But well, man, what can I say, man? I love the fact that we were able to do this and just chat a little bit. I definitely respect your time, but definitely, where can people find you, man? Like the king of client attraction.
Yeah. So whatever your favorite social media platform is. So I'm on Facebook, Marquel Russell, MarquelRussell.com. If you want to go, if you're on Instagram, Marquel Russell, MarquelRussell. And also, if you want a free gift, can I give them a free gift?
Yeah.
Cool. So if you want to kind of know our exact methodology of how I became the king of client attraction, right? Basically, I have this thing called the paid ad playbook. It shows you exactly how we get 50 to 100 leads every single day that actually convert into clients. And we got some bonus trainings that come with it. It's all 100% free. No catches, no upsells, nothing like that. If you go to paidadplaybook.com, PAID, playbook.com, and you can get it all for 100% free.
It's great, man. Well, again, dude, it's such a privilege and an honor, and always been fun to know you, and we've got to hang out. I remember one time we met up in Colorado, got to go out and
it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, man. And I always have this intention when I drive through Atlanta, like, man, one of these times I just gotta driving through Atlanta is not fun. Let's just be honest, it is the worst. Like
you want to get in and out.
Actually, like, you know, when I living in Florida and coming back and forth north, it's always like, I don't worry about any other city but Atlanta. Like,
Yep.
how am I going to get around there? Do I go around the bypass? Do I go to, you know, because it's like,
Yeah. It's terrible.
when do you hit it? If you're going to hit it between this time, you're screwed.
Mm-hmm.
Hit it, you know, later in the evening or early, you know, mid morning or something like so.
If you hit it between 3 and about 6, you're screwed.
Yeah. And dude, we're not talking a small freeway. It's like what, 8 to 10 lanes, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't really do anything.
No, it's 3 to. If you get it 3 to 6, it's like you're screwed. Like we don't even go out. We don't even go down that way. It's like no, we're not even. We'll wait till like 7 or 8.
Yeah, I hear you, man. Well, Marquel, thank you so much, man. Like, it's been a real honor and a privilege. Appreciate you, brother. And hey, maybe we'll have to do this again sometime.
We'll have to do it again, man. Definitely. Of course, man. I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, great to catch up. And if you guys got some value here, make sure you leave a comment, like this, share this video. You know, the key thing we want to do is just get the word out and help people. That's what it's about. So appreciate you guys. See ya. Bye-bye.
All right.